Welcome to Highland Baptist Church. We are so glad that you're joining us this morning. We've got a couple quick announcements before we get underway. First up is the Lighthouse Missions Clothing Drive. They're collecting new or gently used children's clothing to be passed out for kids who need them for school this year. We have a bin in the front foyer where you can donate those. Just simply place them in there and we'll take care of the rest. We also want to take a moment to showcase some of the upgrades that have been going on in our office area over the past several weeks. As you can see from this video, a lot has changed in our back office area. The carpeting is gone, and this new beautiful flooring has been installed. Doors have been painted, new runners along the bottom. The church office has been completely redesigned, repainted, moved around. Lighting has been replaced. Currently, the pastor's office is still under construction, but this will soon be an office/conference room for the staff here at church. Overall, it's been a huge undertaking. There's still a little bit left to do, but we wanted to show you just what's been going on behind those closed doors. Lastly, we wanted to let you know that we are working on a native app for Highland Baptist Church, and it is currently in the production phase, and hopefully within the next month or so, we will have it ready to go. But until then, if you could use this QR code here to scan and download our bulletin for the week. There are more announcements, financial updates, and all kinds of things going on in there. There are also a few hard copies printed out in the front foyer if that's the way you need to go. Once again, welcome to Highland this morning, and let's welcome our pastor, Dr. Johnny Funderburg.
Question the culture is asking today is, what's wrong with me being me? Why is it bad to let the world know who I am? What's wrong with me living out my life the way God made me? What's wrong with that? I remember growing up as a kid, I heard a similar phrase. While growing up, they would say, you have to be who you are. They would say, you must be true to yourself. And then it would be followed with a caution, don't let anybody change you. I heard that over and over again in my early days. Adults said it to kids. Kids said it to other kids. And you remember those old high school yearbooks? That was the favorite byline. You remember? Don't let anybody change you. You stay who you are. So this was a repeated message for a kid like me, growing up in a small town, Texas, raised in the 60s and 70s. In a very dysfunctional, violent home. To tell me to be who you are was a deeply confusing statement. I can still, to this day, remember trying to figure that out. At like 8 and 10 and 12. What do they mean, be who you are? Because my thoughts were, I don't have a clue who I am. And at 8, 10, and 12, neither does anybody else. It took me to adulthood to figure out what they meant when they said these things. and why it was such a common refrain and therefore an important concept. Later, as an adult, I finally began to understand to be true to yourself, don't let anyone change you, spoke primarily to your values, to your character, your standards, your principles. Don't let anyone change who you are in terms of the way you're living your life. When someone said be true to yourself, they meant, look, it's a difficult world out there. There are going to be hard times, and there are going to be temptations. You know right from wrong. You are a good boy, so be true to who you are and don't let anyone change you, your character, your value, your standards. That's what was meant back in the day. But it ain't that way no more. The you be you world has exploded in popularity, but with a different meaning. The you be you world now today means this.
These polyamorous parents let their children choose their gender. And for their oldest child, Hazel, that's neither male nor female.
Please tell us how and why you decided to come out as non-binary.
Because the pronouns she and he did not fit, non-binary was what I turned to. Though I do choose to act and look more feminine.
Can I go down now?
And 2.5-year-old Sparrow has yet to make a choice about their gender.
Sparrow, do you want a banana?
They're anti-gender, but we're using they, them pronouns. Sure, they have anatomy, we understand it, but that's not indicative of their identity. It's something that Sparrow's gonna have to figure out and then tell us before we can tell anyone else.
Particularly because it's, something that our parents did and they got it wrong.
They got it wrong. It is indeed a strange time to be alive. But this you be you thing is not unique. It's not the precedent. Because just not too long ago, the word tolerance had a positive meaning. I can remember parents, school teachers, and other adults telling you to be tolerant of one another. What that meant back then was that you had mutual respect for one another, that you could disagree and still be compatible, still be friends. But today, it's different. In fact, I remember 30 years ago, and I know it was that long ago because I was listening to Josh McDowell on headphones with a cassette player, and I was jogging, so long time ago. And Josh McDowell had studied colleges, and he was putting out the warning that tolerance, the word tolerance, is going to completely change. The word tolerance is going to change our culture. And here's what he was saying. The good kind of tolerance meant, again, mutual respect with another's beliefs. We can disagree, but we can still be friends. It meant that we had relationships. But today, the word tolerance has completely gone off the table. Today, tolerance is not just respecting each other's beliefs, it is approving of each other's beliefs. And the concept is, you have no right to judge me. You have no right to criticize me. You have no right because this is who I am. And therefore, There is no absolute truth in that mindset. If my right is right, and my right is right, and my right is right, you've got anarchy and chaos. They refuse absolute standards. Tolerance means you accept me, you approve of me, and you never look at me with a distasteful, judgmental attitude. Well, now we have this concept of you be you, which means I can be anything I want. I watched a video where a fourth grader said to his teacher, "Today, I'm going to be a girl." And the idea is that the old standards were broken. And today, we want freedom of expression, for me to be myself. And this attitude has everything to do with self-centeredness, the flesh, and our Adamic nature, fallen nature. Think about it for a minute. These phrases, be true to yourself, don't let anyone change you, infers a sexual theme. This theory, concept, mindset that has embraced this you be you culture determines that if you don't like the traditional sex structures of the old school world, you neither have to worry about it nor accept it. You be you. You don't like being a boy? Try living like a girl. You don't like being a girl? Then be binary. Neither one. Just don't let anyone change you. You be you, whoever that is, whatever the outcome may be, that's what's important in this world. And that message is knocking on the doors of our schools. You be you. As you can imagine, this belief system has given adults, teenagers, and children the permission to explore the deepest, darkest part of the heart, to go into the deepest recesses of their deceitfully wicked hearts and act upon them. It's permission. You be you. You be who you are. You've heard me mention George Barna before. I respect George Barna and all of the studies and research that he does. Recently, he came out with what he called the culture's new 6-part moral code. Our culture today, he divided it into 6 statements. Statement number 1, the best way to find yourself is to look within yourself. 91% of the United States believe that. 76% of believers believe that. That the best way to find yourself is to look within. Number 2, people should not criticize someone else's lifestyle. 89% of America agreed. 76% of believers agreed. Number 3, to be fulfilled in life, you must pursue things you desire most. 86% U.S. said yes. 72% of believers said yes. Point number 4, the highest goal in life is to enjoy it as much as possible. The highest goal. the direction of my life, the purpose of my life is to enjoy this life as much as possible. 84% believe that in the U.S. 66% of those who claim to be believers said that. Number 5, people can believe whatever they want as long as those beliefs don't affect society. People can believe whatever they want as long as the beliefs don't affect society. 79% of America, 66% of believers. And that's a farce. I mean, that's just an untrue statement. Can you live your life without affecting other people? Impossible. It's just in there to protect the UBU crowd. And then number 6, any kind of sexual expression between two consenting adults is acceptable. 69% yes of America, 40% of believers. Here's the point. The culture is asking, what's wrong with me being who I am? What's wrong with me being on the outside who I really am on the inside? And the problem, now listen closely, the problem lies within the question itself. You see, the whole purpose and intention of you be you is you be true to your nature. Don't let anyone change you. These statements today are godless, unbiblical, and a humanistic pursuit for anyone to make. Again, to be true to yourself in this culture and to not let anyone change you is the direct opposite of what Jesus says are one of his disciples. What Jesus said is the way to follow him. Turn with me to Mark 8 and follow as I read verses 34 through 38. In this context, Jesus is talking about discipleship. And I want us to hear his words and apply them today, especially in this you-be-you mindset of our culture. Jesus said, then calling the crowd to join his disciples, he said, if any one of you wants to be my follower, you must turn from your selfish ways, take up your cross, and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give it up for my sake and the sake of the good news, you will save it. And what do you benefit if you gain this whole world but lose your own soul? Is there anything worth more than your soul? Is you be you worth more than your soul? Is the world and all that it gives, is that worthy to take the place of your soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my message in these adulterous and sinful days, the Son of Man will be ashamed of that person when he returns in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. Jesus was dealing with the same concept that we deal with today in this culture, and that is the gnawing, relentless inner drives of the flesh. the internal, constant, looping recording of deceit and lies that go through our minds. That's the flesh. The flesh pushes us to do whatever we want, whenever we want. It gives us an attitude of arrogance, a spirit of entitlement, and it makes us the most important person in our world. And the biggest problem with this UBU culture, rooted in the sinful flesh, the biggest problem is that you are playing with fire. Sin will always take us further than we intended to go. Always. And it will cost us more than we ever thought. The fundamental problem of living out your flesh, of engaging the self, of expressing deep depravity, the problem with it is that is the very part of us Jesus said his followers deny. His followers learn to say no. So why? Why can't Jesus just bless the person he created and let them live in freedom? Why won't he do that? Why did he create us and then tell us to deny the flesh? One passage. Write this one down. Galatians 6, 7, and 8. Here's why Jesus adamantly calls for his disciples to learn to say no to the flesh. Here's the reason. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever a person sows, that is also what that one will reap. And now here it is. If one sows to the flesh, he will of the flesh reap corruption. That word means ruination. If a person sows into the self, the flesh, the Adamic fallen nature, if we plant seeds there, what is going to bloom from those seeds is ruination. In the 2004 edition of Trail Magazine. Trail Magazine is a periodical for all things mountain climbing. And in one edition in 2004, someone provided directions for climbers wanting to descend Britain's highest peak, Mount Ben Nevis. Climbers had a trek up to the mountain. And this is a 4,400-foot mountain. So when they got in the top realm, they would often have bad snowstorms to where they couldn't hardly see one foot in front of the other. So one guy knew they had a trek to the top of the mountain, but not one down. He created a very detailed map showing how climbers could get down the top of the mountain in poor visibility. And it was printed in this 2004 issue of Trail Magazine. Thankfully, it wasn't in there very long when a park ranger noticed these instructions. And he walked those instructions through, and he called Trail Magazine as fast as he could, because he said, if you follow these directions exactly, explicitly, in a snowstorm you can't see, you're going to fall off a 1,000-foot cliff. And that is the story of me be me. You be you. You can ascend that mountain, but you've got bad instructions, bad directions. And when you sow to the flesh, you will love the flesh, reap ruination. And one day you will take that step that will be 1,000-foot drop. So what do we say to this culture today? How do we as the church respond when they say, why can't I be me? We have 3 things to tell them. Number 1, we care about you. We care about you. We're not judging your flesh because you're in the flesh. We're not judging your activities because you are in the kingdom of darkness. So we want you to know it's not judgment. We care about you and about your life. And number 2, we tell them that there is an immutable law. You reap what you sow. You're not going to sow corn and get peas. You're not going to plant a bush and get an elm. It comes out of the ground what you put in it. And then the last thing, there is a better way. There is a better way to come and trust Jesus Christ and let him fill you with his love and his grace, his forgiveness, and his Spirit. There is another way to our culture. The message, there is another way.